All right. Thanks everybody for your patience. We now have Dr. Sexton giving us a lecture on well-being, discussing sleep hygiene. So welcome, Dr. Sexton.
Okay, hey guys. So for just a few people in the audience that I don't recognize, I'm Tess Sexton. Yeah, I don't know who you are. Tall man in the back. It's not like. I'm Tess Sexton. I'm a third year in residency here at Kings County. We'll do a discussion on sleep hygiene here in a minute. Before we get started, I just want to say thanks to Juliana Jaramillo, Ronnie Rivera, Surya Ahmad, Priscilla Chow, and Manisha Phillip for making this actually happen. So, is it like reverberating to you guys?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'm going to turn it off. Is that better?
Yeah.
Is this better? Okay, cool. All right, so essentially, in a little bit, we're going to have a discussion about sleep hygiene and some strategies to sort of facilitate healthy sleep. But first, I want to make a couple notes on the lecture series in general of wellness. So what is wellness? When you Google well person, this is what comes up. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm nowhere near that right now. That being said, it is an important topic. It's probably one of the most important topics that we can talk about going through residency, parallel learning and whatnot. In 2014, two internal medicine residents died by suicide, and that brought it to the public attention, a topic that had been discussed for several years but hadn't really been in the public eye. And that's that suicide is the leading cause of death in male residents and second leading cause of death in female residents. Overall, second leading cause of death in residents. This was verified by a review of the resident deaths from the years 2000 to 2014, and they found this to be quite true. So back to wellness in general. So when I heard that I was going to be doing a wellness lecture at the end of the year, I was like, cool. Wellness, dope. There's going to be like 2 fourth-year residents here, right? But we ended up with at least 5. I'm excited about that. Thank you. And then third years are going to be like, sweet, wellness, cool, phone. And then our second years are so burnt out. I'm just happy you guys are awake, so thank you for that. And the first year residents, I actually think you guys might actually be interested in this. I think honestly it'll benefit everybody, but you guys are reaching that point in the year where you're like, okay, so I just finished a year of this, and there's 3, if not 4 more years left of this sweet residency, and how am I going to keep it together? Well, I don't know about you guys, but when I hear mandatory wellness lecture, this is what I think of. And I'm like, okay, not even just this, but like the movie it's from, Bird Box, it's like you have these people who are like, you have to see the light, and you're like, I don't want to see the light. And you're just like forced to see this lecture, somebody telling you, you know, you gotta do more yoga, you gotta exercise, meditate, that'll be well, like it's all on you, you know what's up, and just be better at it. Or worst case scenario, you have the sensation that you have an administration that's just like, ooh, residents are killing themselves, what do we do to not get in trouble? Wellness lecture. And I mean, luckily we don't have that kind of administration. We don't really have like dehumanized populace of people above us telling us what to do. They did give us like the autonomy of taking charge of these lectures. So what do? We take control of the wheel. And get ready for cute pictures. So who's behind the wheel? We have the interns. So bright, fresh faces, full of hope and excitement, as well as, you know, very, very important members of the discussion to keep us in tune with what is actually still going on, and what is real to our juniors and our new physicians. Our second years, admittedly very sleepy, but very, very experienced and in the thick of it, really in the heat. Third years who are like, it's cool, man. Like, you'll get over it. Just quit complaining. You're gonna be done soon. It's like, because they're on 8-hour shifts, guys. So like, whatever. And then our fourth years who are just like off to California or wherever, and are just like chilling, but also with that positivity comes a lot of really good perspective on the struggles that you face in residency. And then of course our wise, majestic faculty. So with all of this, with all of us coming together and sharing these discussions, we want to avoid this, this sort of like, we're going down together, but whatever, we're together type thing. So I do want to try and keep it constructive, and I think we can all manage to do that. So what we're going to be discussing today is going to be sleep. Something that we all wish we were doing right now. And it's, you know, everybody studies it, says like, oh, this is really the most important thing to being well. You get nice sleep hygiene, and then you're rested, and then, you know, you'll feel better about life. So first thing that we'll discuss as a group, what are some like barriers that you guys are experiencing to sleep? Having to come to conference and listen to me talk about it, yeah.
Flipping between days and nights.
Yeah, shift work, right? By a show of hands, who has difficulty switching? Yeah. What are some things that you run into when you're switching that are really challenging for you?
What I'm gonna eat.
What you're gonna eat, right?
Staring at the ceiling from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m.
Yeah. Anybody on this side of the room?
Still being exhausted and getting enough sleep.
Yeah. So that's just like a barrier to happiness altogether. It's like, why am I sleeping a whole bunch, but I'm still totally wiped out? I have this sleep debt that I can't reclaim. I am totally worn out. Like maybe I slept too much. Anybody else? Any other issues you might be thinking of popping up in your life that are young and little?
Sleep guilt. Sometimes you end up sleeping a lot, and then you feel like you've lost like a lot of your day or multiple days, and so you cut back on your sleep in order to like cut back on the guilt, and then you're tired.
Yeah, no, exactly. And you don't even need to have a family to feel like that. Like if you're just so tired that you don't want to get out of bed that day, but it's, you know, 70 degrees out and breezy, and you're like, wow, I'm wasting this gorgeous day, but I just kind of don't want to go to the beach or like go on a bike ride. I'd rather just like chill in my room because nobody will talk to me if I do that. Anything else? Any other pressing things?
My dog.
Your dog, yeah. So your loved ones, right? Like you have, some people have little babies at home, some people have fur babies at home, and they require attention, and that sort of takes away from, you know, whether or not you're actually getting enough sleep. If you do have a small child or a dog that you have to walk, you know, are you going to be able to fit that human or animal into your life schedule, right? So, any other things? Okay, so the ones that I just popped up were essentially you've been at like a 12-hour shift, or you know, even a hard 8-hour shift, and your brain is like boom, 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 I'm super smart, I'm a clinical monster, and then you have to like go lay down and be asleep, and that's super hard sometimes, just to turn that off. Another thing that I think about that pops into my head when I'm trying to go to sleep is money. I'm like, oh no, I wonder if I'm over my credit limit. And then I look at my phone and I'm like, sweet, they extended it. And then I'm like, wait, this is dangerous. And then I'm like, am I in too much debt? Am I in more debt? And then, you know, then it just sort of spirals. Maybe you're, you know, mostly in the junior life, but you know, even in senior life when you're working your 12s, you get home you have like a half an hour to fall asleep and you're like, oh my God, I have to go there in like 8 hours. What am I gonna do? And it's like all you're thinking about is how exciting it'll be to go to sleep the next day. Because you feel like you never ever leave. Or if you are a second year and you're doing your 24-hour call in the CCU and you're going, I wish I wrote Benadryl for everybody. Because you're getting disturbed with minor chest pain and people that have just had like cardiac procedures and you're like, what do I do about that? So that might keep you up, right? And then lastly, we already touched on this, but you know, the sweet little joys in our life outside of work can also cause us a little bit of undue stress. So enough of the negative, how about the positive? What are some things that we do to get over these issues? Blackout curtains, right? So it's something that like some of us, Derek, has struggled with extremely. Blackout curtains. It's just like you have to get your room in the position that you can actually sleep in. If you're going to be doing shift work, you have to take it seriously, treat it like a job. Unless you're like me, where I can just sleep on a moving bus in the middle of the day, you need something that will facilitate your circadian rhythm and get your night dark light situation set up.
White noise maker.
White noise maker, yeah. So if you have something that it's just like setting the scene, making a place that you really feel like if a fan makes all the difference for you, don't go a day without a fan. I've tried it, it sucks. Like, you need to have like both temperature and light also managed, as well as the auditory stimulus. So just do your best to sort of counteract your own ability to be disturbed.
Boring podcast.
Boring
Boring,
podcast?
yeah.
Yeah. What's one that you like?
Depends. Some episodes of This American Life can get boring after 30 minutes.
There's this other thing that's like Sleep With Me, which is another podcast that's out there, and it's this guy that just like drones on nonsensically about like weird stories, and that's also one that I've enjoyed in the past. Anybody else?
Weighted blanket?
Weighted blanket, yeah. So just making that like really nice, warm, comforting, like womb-like feeling when you're asleep.
No TV in the room.
Thank you. So this is something that we're all addicted to, our screens, right? So if you keep the screens out of your view, if you live in a shoebox studio apartment, it's kind of impossible to do. I don't know if you can turn it around or something, but limiting the amount of TV that you watch right before bed, because that just sort of like stimulates your brain.
I don't do anything related to like work for like at least 2 hours before going to sleep. If I was studying, I just stop like 2 hours and then I just completely do something different related with work, because if not, my mind just keeps thinking.
That's a really good point, because you're told to like read before bed. It's supposed to like calm you. It's not a screen. But if you're sitting there and like you're reading the latest like CHF guidelines or whatever, then like you're not really putting yourself in the position to be resting. You're like sort of amping yourself up, and then we're all active learners. Anybody from this side of the room found some strategies for getting over the barriers to healthy sleep? Exercise, cool. Was that hard? Thanks. Yeah, exercise is great. So I was trying to find this meme, because I can't remember exactly how it goes, but it was kind of like this lady saying like, oh, I wish I could sleep like a Marine. And the Marine was like, okay, so get up at 4 a.m., run for like 21 miles, and then do a bunch of heavy lifting, and then run again, and then go to bed. And so essentially we're not going to be able to do that, but getting something that your body wants to have a drive to make more ATP for, and so doing a little bit of exercise, not even daily, but just when you can, is very pivotal. Anybody else? Okay, so the ones that I have are, we touched on almost all of these, but essentially the amount of sleep that you're getting can be detrimental to you. We all know what it feels like to be on a DOMA and you're like, I could get up or I could just go back to sleep and then I'll sleep for like 18 hours and then that'll be amazing. And then you wake up feeling like you got hit by a truck. You're just like, you're like shaking, you're like hypoglycemic, and you have like DVTs and bed sores. It's like, why does my back hurt? All I do is lay down. So one of the things that I've heard of doing, and I finally end of my third year, finally managing to try and do is schedule things for my DOMAs. So something that like, you know, worst case scenario, you're like just not up for it, you're not gonna feel guilty about skipping out on. But something that will just be like, you wake up and you're like, oh, I gotta go get my nails done. Or like, if you're lucky enough to have a dog or a significant other. Yeah, sure. But just maybe even going to the movies, something low key, something chill. Luckily we have the summer coming up so we can be outside. But just getting up and doing something on your days off. And then just remember that the more you cycle through that heavy sleep, oversleep, the more it's perpetuated. I honestly don't know what the neurochemistry of it is, but we can all say definitively, anecdotally, if you're like sleeping way too much, you're gonna wanna sleep way more and it just sort of cycles through. Exercise, we talked about this already, but essentially you don't have to be, you know, crushing out burpees at CrossFit or like rocking the marathons like Tarka. You can just be, I don't know, doing some yoga or, you know, going on a walk up the hill or something just like to get the blood moving through your body a little bit. It's good for your brain. It's good for all of the positive neurochemicals that we have. And it's, like I said, you don't have to be awesome. Anything worth doing is worth doing poorly, in my opinion. So then, oh, I skipped this one, sorry, I hit 2 buttons. So coffee, you don't need me to harp on coffee, we're all addicted, there's like no way around it. And just be cognizant of how much or when you're drinking it. And then alcohol can be very, very therapeutic. Like after a tough shift or something, you need to just like, it's a good excuse to not go home, but to like go be with your friends somewhere and just debrief. And even if you just have like a beer that brings you joy or a cocktail that you like the taste of, like sometimes you just need a little joy in your life and there's nothing wrong with that. But that being said, the studies are showing that if you drink alcohol within 4 hours of going to sleep, it does decrease your sleep latency, so you get to bed earlier, but it disrupts the second half of your sleep cycle. So may or may not be as effective. And then just screen, little shout out to the screens, which is funny because I think this is from Reddit and I probably caught it while I was looking at my phone on my bed. But you know, we all know like the blue light or whatever that's in the screen like stimulates your brain. And so it's really good when you're trying to get up in the morning. So maybe after your nap for your DOMA, just grab your phone and like try and stimulate yourself, I don't know. But try and limit it right before bed. I found like a bunch of contradicting information about food and sleep. But it sounds like, you know, just get a good relationship with when you need to eat your food. Like don't go to bed hungry because you'll just sit there going like, ugh, I'm hungry. But otherwise, there's studies out there that are saying that like if you eat too late or you eat too heavy of a food, it can also perpetuate like sort of the groggy like oversleep cycle.
Rice and beans.
Rice and beans? Okay, we're going to Carol's for rice and beans at 7:30 every night. So then another thing, the last 2 things I'm going to talk about Your stressors. Deal with your stressors during the daytime. If you're tripping about money, make sure you review your accounts and talk to your significant other about like what you're gonna do, or make your budget or do something. I usually just end up buying things online when I'm stressing about money, but that's not the right thing to do. So deal with it during the day. Don't let it creep up on your like little punch drunk, sleep deprived brain in the middle of the night, because it's just gonna be like, nah. But that being said, and lastly, we talked about all of this stuff, but just making sure that you have a place that facilitates sleep for you to go to. If that means that like your place isn't good for whatever reason, like they're jackhammering the outside of my wall for like the last 6 months, figure out where you can go to get a good night's sleep. And lastly, use each other. It's super cheesy, but sometimes life is pretty cheesy. We're all in this together. There are gonna be times where you're gonna need help and you're gonna need to reach out. And there are gonna be other times where you're feeling particularly well and super dope. And like, if you see somebody else that can use a little bit of that energy, just throw it their way. And lastly, my last like sort of wellness piece of advice, I think going forward, especially after having talked to a number of people in the junior classes, I think the most important thing going forward for staying well is to not compare yourself to the others in your class or in your residency. There are a bajillion different variables that affect our given happiness during whatever rotation, who your senior is, what the weather is, what's going on in your personal life. So somebody may be having like a dope time on a rotation and you're just having just a horrible time, or vice versa. The only person that you can compare yourself to is yourself. Just look at yourself every day or whenever you feel like it, and just ask yourself, like, am I more like who I want to be today than I was yesterday? And sometimes the answer is no. Sometimes it's like you're not super jacked on who you are, and like maybe you can be doing better. The important thing is to not blame yourself, not get down on yourself, just give yourself a pass. Say, okay, today's a wash, I'm gonna do something that makes me feel good. And then when the energy comes back, you take the steps necessary to feel better, okay? So that being said, everybody get some sleep and have a good day.
All right, take 3 minutes or so. Collect yourself. We'll go back to the